For all you big buck hunters, if you're looking for an ideal base camp for hunting the big woods in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill, you've got to call our friends at Christmas & Associates. For over 35 years, they've been providing land and camps to sportsmen. 5 to 50 acres, rivers, streams, and ponds in some of the best locations. Affordable prices and in-house financing with low monthly payments. They can even build their Adirondack-style cabins on property you already own. For more information, call Christmas & Associates at 1-800-229-7843 or go to landandcamps.com or visit them on Facebook at Christmas & Associates. Take care. Welcome to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, a Big Woods Bucks production. In this podcast, the Big Woods Bucks crew from New York sits down and discusses all things hunting and even a little fishing within the blue line. 6 million acres of old-growth forest and few roads make the Adirondacks one of the most challenging places to hunt in the country. From Iroquois and Algonquin deer drives to the early days of Adirondack guiding, the team discusses the history, legends, and lore of these ancient mountains. Along the way, the team interviews top Adirondack hunters, from well-known legends to little-known local legends, homing in on what it takes to be successful in these unforgiving woods. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Connor, Big Woods Bucks CEO and video guy. We're here recording in my yard again on a beautiful summer day. It's actually hunt stock weekend. We couldn't make it this year, but perhaps in the future we'll make an appearance. I have with me today
Austin Sheeran,
Mark Sheeran,
Bob Dunbar.
So by the time we thought this would be a nice little symbolic gesture here. By the time you hear this podcast, we'll have announced that we're working with Henry. We have an amazing partnership, which we'll get into in a future episode. But for now, cheers to Henry and Big Woods Bucks joining together. We got our mugs there together, our respective company mugs.
Yep.
You can get these on the website, by the way. They're pretty awesome. They sell
awesome.
pretty good, right, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
We sell a lot of them.
Yeah,
And I have a ton
surprisingly
of
large
them in
amount of them.
stock, and they weigh it. Carry cases of them, and they're heavy.
So help Bob out. Help Bob and his back out.
Yeah, help my back out.
Yeah,
Relieve
lighten the
me of
load on
all these
Bob.
mugs.
So today we're gonna do a season recap because we had all these stories from the season, and we recorded an episode in like February, and we had to unfortunately can it because it just didn't. I was still getting used to this mixer. In any event, we're going to tell our stories. We each thought of 2 or 3 stories, talking points, educational points, and we're going to get into that. And then Mark, Austin, and I went down to Pennsylvania, to the Pennsylvania Big Woods, and hunted with Steve Sherk right at the end of the season, and we had an amazing trip. And so we're going to talk about that, and then we're actually going to get Steve on. We're going to reminisce about our trip there and talk to him about some of our observations about the PA Big Woods. And who wants to start us off?
I can start off.
Yeah, tell us about your season.
Well, I think that this season was very special because I finished a 40-year quest since I was a little boy to track a buck on bare ground and get the kill on film. That wasn't part of what I dreamed about when I was a kid, obviously. But I was always fascinated by the Indians. And I read all of Tom Brown Jr.'s books in my teens, which was all about tracking. And then I read, obviously, Bryce Towsley's book, and then I met Hal, and I hunted with Hal 20 years ago, and the rest is history. But in the back of my mind, I always had this desire to be a good enough tracker to track an animal on bare ground and get it, procure it, right? So this year I had the opportunity to get that on film, and you'll see that in the Process 2 film that we just produced. And I did. I tracked a buck for 1.43 miles.
Yeah.
On Onyx, I kept track of it. And
Well, think about so that film will have come out by the time we release this, so you can talk about it.
oh yeah, that's right. So it was a windy day, and it was probably the worst conditions besides dry leaves, completely dry leaves. The leaves were curled. It was windy out. And so the conditions were constantly changing, and the track was eroding. But I got lucky in that the buck that I was following was a 2.5-year-old 8-pointer. And I should have showed this, but this is me being not good with filming particularly. I'm learning.
You've grown a lot.
Yeah,
We're excited for this season.
It's
Yeah.
also so hard too. Like, just quick, like when you're tracking and you're in a spot where the conditions are fading, it's very hard to like remember to stop, take film,
That's
do
true.
all this. Like the buck I shot a couple years ago, one of them, like I was running out of snow fast, and I knew I was losing time, so I didn't end up really getting any footage because of it, and it was
Yeah.
kind of a bummer in retrospect, but at the time I'm so focused on following that buck because it was tedious. It's hard, so.
Yeah. And in this case, it was very tedious. There were points, as you guys know, and this part wasn't in the film. I was on my hands and knees, but this buck had a really unique thing with his rear hooves. The back of them were split off on the outside. And when you see the buck, you can tell he's got very high hips. He's built with a big ass, and he was awkwardly built. And his back feet, because of that, typically a buck's back feet will be slightly inside the front track because the rear track lands in the front track, and his were outside slightly. So I could differentiate because his tracks were no bigger than a regular doe's tracks, but I could differentiate when he crossed a doe's track or something like that. I'd move the leaves. Sometimes I was on my hands and knees, and I could see that chip in the soil. And so there was a lot of that kind of sleuthing and patience, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stay. I felt hopeless. I've done this a million times and never gotten the buck. So I was like, but this day, there was something about it. I was like, I'm going to kill him. And on film, you can see him get out of his, well, not really get out of his bed. You can kind of just see movement of him getting out of his bed. And then I shoot, and then I whack him on the second shot really good. But that was the most important buck probably in a long time, because that was a long time coming. That was a lifetime of work to make that happen. And I got ribbed on the internet bad. People were like, oh, he's full of shit and all that. And I said, well, wait for the movie.
You're like, I got it all on film.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny, too, about, I don't know why, I guess it's maybe the part of the obsession with snow, but people thinking that you're somehow exaggerating and that you may have been following deer trails and then you saw a buck.
Right.
There's a chapter in Larry Benoit's book on bare ground tracking.
Yeah.
Okay? So we've
do
gotten
it.
really obsessed with snow, but the GOAT, the greatest of all time, has a whole chapter on bare ground tracking. It is possible.
Oh, yeah.
I have complete confidence that Mark did it. And also, like I said, he captured that on video. So
Yeah. So,
proof is in the pudding.
But it's also, people need to know that I spent, Bob knows that I sacrificed entire years because I told myself I would figure this out, and it was a personal quest. And if you want to really learn it, it's not through Larry Benoit, because he didn't really describe it in detail. Read Tom Brown Jr.'s books, and there's a whole series of books, and practice what he does, and that's what I did as a kid, and it is possible.
Yeah. What a buck.
Yeah.
Bob, you got anything that stands out?
A couple things. I did shoot a little half rack because I was obsessed, because I had a couple dry years, and I was obsessed with having some meat in the freezer.
Yeah.
So I had and it was kind of an odd thing. It was a New York buck, and I'm sitting there, and I had bow hunted this area. I'd seen quite a few does, missed a buck. That same buck I had missed with the bow. Missed another doe with the bow earlier, and
Hate those seasons.
the bow season can be terrible. Yeah, confidence goes right down to nothing. But anyway, so I had sat out in this one spot that I knew, and I saw this buck, and ended up shooting it, and then I realized I was like, oh. Because I shoot this buck in the southern zone, I was like, I'm done in New York. I'm like, damn. All I had was my muzzleloader tag, and muzzleloader season had
And your
passed.
bear tag.
Yeah, my bear tag. But, to Mark's point about bare ground tracking, during the muzzleloader season in the Adirondacks, I was on a track, and I came across something that I've never come across before. I was on a buck, and it was soft because it had rained the day before. So I'm walking. You can see he's cookie cutter in the leaves, and I came across a puddle in the leaves. I'm like, what the heck is that? He had pissed,
Right.
and I'm like, oh my god! That's how fresh it was.
Yeah.
And like 5 minutes later, I kicked him up, and I never saw what it was, but it was a big deer.
That's the one you get the shot. You got on footage.
I never got a shot at that deer.
Oh, you did. Oh,
Never got a
you
shot.
shot at a buck in Maine.
Yeah, I didn't shoot at it. I tracked within 20 yards of it, jumped it, and swung on it. As I was swinging on it, the sun got in my holographic sight, and it turned orange. And I no longer saw the buck. I saw this giant orange blob and no deer, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Pulled the trigger though. Or am I thinking of 2 years ago?
No, I never pulled the trigger on him. Nope.
Thanks for adding salt to the wound.
Yeah,
right?
Thanks
Sorry.
for that. Nope.
Well, that's what we're
But-
going to talk about our foibles too.
Well, I will say, Maine last year, I was on a lot of different bucks. I saw a couple different ones, but nothing that I wanted to shoot. The one I wanted to shoot, I couldn't, and I saw a lot of moose.
That's cool.
So it was a good season. I mean, look, I don't equate success so much as shooting as a deer as much as it is as seeing them.
Yeah.
You know, would I have liked to have shot that one that I was 20 yards from that I had tracked for a couple miles? Yeah, I would have.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were going to shoot one for sure because, and Austin too. Austin had kind of a crazy season because I'd get all the texts. So when I'm home, I'm like, how are they doing? How are they doing? How are they? Yeah, no, you're constantly thinking, how are your buddies doing? And then you get the text, oh, I'm on one. Oh, I just bumped them. And then your head goes, you know? So I'm living vicariously through all these guys that I'm just getting all day. I'm getting texts from everybody.
Sitting at his desk and like phone goes off.
Yeah. And then a picture of the track and it's all crispy and nice. You know, you're like, oh, he's got to get it.
Yeah, I'm sending pictures of Dad where the bucks are feeding. You can see their antlers raking the snow. You know, and he's like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I'll give you a quick recap of my season. I spent way more time in the southern zone at my rifle spot than I ever have before, like full weekends, dark to dark. And it was fun. I saw a ton of deer. I got really close to killing a big buck. But a doe made me, and then the whole kind of crew of deer moved off. If anything, it confirmed why I like hunting the big woods, because I just go crazy sitting in a stand for 8 to 10
Hard,
hours
dude.
straight.
It's so hard to sit dark to
It's
dark.
hard, and it's not my thing. And I think this season, like I said, it's just reinforced why I like hunting the big woods. So after I'd spent that kind of early November and around the southern zone, I went to the Adirondacks. There were great conditions by that point, and that week we spent together at my camp, the conditions were phenomenal. I spent a lot of time sitting because I thought those runways would open up, and they just never really did.
Yeah,
and
it's later.
Yeah, it was just they never really opened up. It was like a staging kind of thing where they would open up, but then they'd close again, and then they'd open up a little more. But I got in. So I'll tell the story of the laughing buck. I was at the spot. I was at a runway I really like, which, again, with that much snowfall, you'd think would be opened up to the point where you could tell 50 deer had gone down it. It was maybe like 5 deer had gone down it overnight. But I'm like, I'll sit here for a few hours. And I sat there for a few hours. And you know me, I have ADD. The buck's always over there. If I'm here, it's there. It's just the way it is. So I pick up all my stuff, my massive backpacking backpack with a sleeping bag and extra layers and stuff.
Your soup.
My soup. And this is an always be hunting tip, which might be apparent to experts, but I need to learn these lessons over and over again, apparently. I creeping along, going back toward the other area where I like to sit, and I was going to still hunt my way there, and I was still hunting, but I wasn't creeping, and I hear someone laugh. Like that. Like a man laughing. I heard a man laughing. And it's not the most remote spot, so there's someone around here. So I waited. I'm like I'm waiting for the flash of orange from a guy and his buddy walking through the woods and laughing with each other. And I waited 5 minutes. There's no one here. Like, I don't know what that was, but I would have bet my life savings it was a man laughing. I go down. I get to the Vly, where you cross back over the Beaver Dam. Get to the other side is where I was headed. When I get down to the Vly, though, I could see a big buck track. And I'm like, oh man. And you could tell he'd been hanging out by the runway, checking does that were coming down the runway. Because he was just, you'd see him check and then move over, and then he'd come back down. But he was tired too. He was just feeding and just like meandering. He was tired.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, and it was fresh too. I'm like, this track wasn't here when I crossed over this in the morning. It's fresh. He's been here this morning. So I'm following it, death creeping, probably an hour, because I'm like, he's right here. And then I start to go back up toward that side hill that I'd just come down, and I'm like, oh boy, I can see where I just walked, right? All right, let me follow him a little further. And then I'm like, okay, I literally just walked there, and this buck track's going here, giant bed. And I could see where I just walked 50 yards away. It was the buck standing up out of its bed, seeing me, and it laughed. It laughed at me, and then boom, running tracks away. I was just like, unbelievable. It was like the weirdest in hindsight, it was the buck. And it was a laugh. It was like the weirdest vocalization, but I was like, that was the buck. Just being like, peace.
Peace out, brother.
I mean? How weird is that? So this was the only season, I think, ever that I didn't see a buck in the Adirondacks. And but I saw some really nice buck tracks. I followed some really nice buck tracks. I had some good times seeing a ton of deer sitting. But first time I've never seen a buck in the Adirondacks. It's 7 years I've been hunting.
You also are all over the place. Like you're frantically running the business as well. I want to make a point about this. So if you're not like intensely in a groove, it takes me sometimes a week just to acclimate to the big woods, like mentally to let all the bullshit in my head to just kind of seep away. And you're not like that.
I was
man.
not mentally in the game.
No.
That was probably the worst fall I've ever had in terms of head game. And not like head game of like, oh, I need a buck, I can't get a buck.
No, it wasn't.
We had so much going on with the business then. We've just been in a posture of like incredible growth, but which requires tons of hard work. You have to triple down on that hard work.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in a bad mind frame. I just wasn't in a hunting mind frame.
No, you were disconnected. It was like
right.
I could see it. I've been there. Yeah.
So after all that, so I'll get into my second story, which we'll talk to Steve about a bit. But I'd been ready to call it a season, and I'd taken a lot of time off at that point. I didn't have a ton left, and we'd planned to go down to Sherk's and hunt with Sherk, and we've been planning that a few years. And you guys were like, you were down to do it.
Yeah.
And I made a split-second decision. I remember we had a big board meeting at work, and I was like, you know what? I've done enough, because there was a ton of work leading up to that. And you never want, by the way, one of my busiest times of the year was like the final 2 weeks of deer season, getting ready for that meeting. Your day job can affect your priorities
you thought you weren't
too.
going to be able to go.
Yeah, but you know what? We had the meeting, it went well, and I was like, I'm going down. It would only have to been for 2 days because I had to come back for something personal. After 2 days. So I was like, all right, 2 days in Pennsylvania. I'll make the 5-hour drive down. I was a little bit more in a better headspace by then because I was just like, whatever, I'm taking 2 days, going down to Pennsylvania, explore something new I've been really excited about. So the first morning, there had been snow in Pennsylvania all season. You had snow, so we were hunting the same their mountains are these long fingers,
Yeah, big ridges.
Big ridges. So we were all on the same ridge, but we were all 2 or 3 miles apart hunting different parts of it. And where you were, there was snow. Where I was, there wasn't. But it was wet leaves, moisture dripping off the trees, the perfect still hunting conditions. I love that. I love those conditions. I mean, I think everybody does, but I really love those, and I feel like I excel in those conditions.
That's your thing, yeah.
And so I'm just still hunting. I'm in the zone, still hunting. I get to the top of this ridge, still hunting down like the east side or west side. I'm still hunting along, not right on the top, but along the side. And I'm 30 minutes into the trip, 30 minutes into my hunt. Boom, giant buck coming up. And it's not walking. I think I would have had a better chance if it was walking. It wasn't running either, but it was trotting. And I think what had happened was my wind had swirled around the side of the hill like this, and I think he smelled me. But it wasn't like he was super, made me. But he was like, something's wrong, and I'm going to go like this out of there. So he's doing that, but he's 40 yards away, broadside. And the craziest thing happened. About 5 different things went through my head at that moment. Holy crap, I just drove 5 hours to PA, and there's a massive buck in front of me within 30 minutes. Doesn't get any better than that. I was like, this is a gimme. The ultimate point is there's no gimmies. The second, the second thing that went through my head is the antler restrictions.
Right.
And but this all happened in 2 seconds. 5 completed thoughts.
Yes.
In 2 seconds.
Amazing how the mind works.
It's wild. It's like almost like quantum mechanics. Like I could have 5 complete thoughts in about 2 seconds of seeing the buck.
You're a supercomputer.
I guess I'm a genius. So the second thing that went through my head was the antler restrictions. Antler restrictions. Oh, I'm like, no, there's no way.
We got it.
This is well
Checks the
beyond,
box.
Yeah, and I don't want to give the impression this was some mega giant, but it was a solid 3.5, 4.5-year-old 8-pointer, and I've only shot one big woods buck, so this is my moment. This is what I've been working for 5. That was the third thought. This is my moment. I have grinded for 5 years, and I'm finally about to get a big woods buck on the ground. Hallelujah. The fourth thought. Oh my God, how lucky am I? It's a straight drag right down to my truck on wet leaves. I'm going to be able to go home by noon.
This is amazing.
You know what I mean? I was like, it's already in my truck. As far as I'm thinking, I'm like, it's already in my truck.
So
and I'm already headed home.
So this is 4 falsities so far.
4 falsities. The fifth was, all I got to do is put that scope up and pull the trigger, and I'm good. Right? So, whoosh, pulled it up. He saw me as I was pulling it up and stopped and looked at me. Broadside. Right? He saw the motion. I'm like, easy. Boom. He's just still standing there. Maybe hop forward a little bit.
Microphone.
He's still standing there. Maybe hop forward a couple steps. I'm like, he should be down by now. Something's wrong. 2 shots on the run. Of course, you're hoping against hope that you go over and you see some hair, some blood. But I think I knew right then, just by the way he was moving, that I didn't touch him.
Yeah.
But it was just. And I spent an hour and a half circles, increasingly bigger, looking for blood, hair, anything. And then finally, after an hour and a half, I'm like, I just flubbed it.
Yeah.
That was my chance that I've been working for 6 years, grinding it out in the big woods, just grit and blood, sweat, and tears. And I flubbed it. And, I mean, you got, when I got back to camp that night, Austin's like, I was visibly depressed. And Austin goes, Ryan, do we need to take your guns away?
Do we need to lock up the guns?
Do we need to take your guns away? I'm like, maybe.
Do I need to take your 760?
Yeah. So, and I can't blame the gun this time because, with the buck I missed in Maine, it was the gun's fault. Okay. Obviously, I didn't do everything right because I didn't discover that mistake early enough. Or use a really reliable gun.
Yeah, but sometimes guns fail.
But in this case, I had no excuse because a week before that, I'd been sitting down here in a stand in farm country, and I killed 2 does back to back from 60 yards. So it's not the gun's fault. It's not the scope's fault.
No,
it was pure the definition of buck fever, target panic.
Yes.
And
getting ahead of yourself.
That buck was already in the truck.
Yeah.
And
not living in the moment.
It's so bizarre. And you told me a story about your conversation with a really well-known hunter who, he's like, looking back, I shot at a buck and I didn't even touch it. And looking back, I can't even remember aiming.
Right.
Well, I remember aiming, but I think I aimed and I brought the gun down and watched him drop.
Right.
I didn't follow through.
That's
it's
right.
Just like in golf or baseball, you have to follow through, and you're not done until until you're in your backswing and you see the ball going.
Yep.
You picked your head up.
I went, boom, picked my head up to watch him drop so I could go over and do grip and grin and
we've all
be a hero.
done it.
You know what I mean?
If you're not living in the moment, Hal says it best, and I don't think he even realizes what he's saying. He's like, when the bead hits the shoulder, my mind takes a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that is he doesn't get flubbed up. He's done it so many times. And he doesn't pull the trigger until that bead is there, and he goes, yep, bang. The bullet is in that shoulder right now or wherever, and that's the truth. I've flubbed up so many times because I put so much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
It's just the worst.
Yeah, and it was really painful, I'm not going to lie. Tears may or may not have been shed. And a couple beers may or may not have been drank from the gas station.
Sometimes the beers help the tears.
Yeah, I know the Freedom model says otherwise, but in any event, I was pretty depressed. But you just have to take those in stride. And it still haunts me about twice a week. I think, oh, wouldn't it be great to have, I'd have the mount back by now, and it would be a big, beautiful Big Woods, Pennsylvania buck on my wall. And actually, we'll talk to Sherk in a minute, but I felt bad for Sherk because I told him the whole situation. He's like, ooh. He's like, oh, jeez. And I just thought about how it would have been cool on social media for his business and for our business, for
Yeah.
Big Woods to go down and show, like, look, our Big Woods hunting
think-
style, or still hunting style works in
I don't
PA,
think it helped that me and Austin were passing on bucks too. Within the first 2 days,
Austin,
we were like,
well, that was
Austin, I don't know how you guys didn't hear my shot. It was foggy and weird, the atmospherics on the mountain.
And you were
but
like 3 miles
text-
down the mountain, 4 miles down.
Yeah, he texted me he goes, he's like, I just passed on a small buck. Keep your eyes peeled. I said, I just shot at a giant.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, no way. I'm like,
Yeah, I texted him. I was like, it was like first thing in the morning, and I texted you. I was like, dude, I just seen a small buck. I was like, we're gonna kill bucks,
Right.
dude. We've been in the woods for 20 minutes, and you respond, you're like, bro, I just missed a giant. I'm like,
yeah.
oh no.
Yeah, it was brutal, but you know what? Shame on me for not practicing. Every year I say I'm going to practice more, but then again, like I said, I killed those 2 does just like.
You can come shoot anytime you want.
Well, I'm going up tomorrow, and I'm going to shoot, and I'm really going to make a point of shooting this year. So I think that's the takeaway: is practice, 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 and stick at it. I'm not discouraged. I'm as fired up as ever. Like I said, it haunts me, but and I have like 5 of those that haunt me now. But like I just said, there's nowhere I'd rather be than in the Big Woods.
but we all do.
So
That's what everybody has.
yeah.
Okay.
So pick yourself up and get after it. So we're going to talk more about Pennsylvania. We'll get to your story from the season, but I just want to quickly say about Pennsylvania, what a phenomenal place. It's like the next day I go out, I track the buck because there was a nice 1 or 2 inches of snow overnight. You can track there. It's great. It's big enough to track. There was enough snow to track. Tracked the buck all morning. By the afternoon, it had melted, and I was still hunting. But I saw 16 deer in one day, which is basically about how many deer you can expect to see in a whole season in the Adirondacks, in my experience, anyway. So
You're lucky.
it's a great spot. I don't want to blow it up, and I apologize to any Pennsylvania Big Woods hunters who I might be blowing this up for.
There's a lot of deserts there too, though.
And also, there's just not as much pressure there. That was my impression, anyway. It may be because.
I don't know
Maybe
where we were. There was
Saturday when we left.
Yeah, there
was a lot of trucks.
there's
But maybe
people-
because we were there during the week.
But they have doe permits too.
That's right.
Yeah, I think someone killed a doe on that same
A
mountain.
lot of guys. Yeah, I seen the drag marks.
That-
Oh, I
Yeah.
saw gut piles.
Yeah.
I saw gut piles.
So like, a lot of guys shoot does and stuff, but there's a lot of desert there too.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have gone there for 3 days and found nothing.
right.
But
We had Sherk.
Yeah, I mean, Sherk is the man.
So Sherk is the man. Austin, I'm sorry, I probably took too long. But do you have a story you want to tell before we get Sherk on?
Yeah, so I'll just my season, I probably hunted 30 days last year. I hunted a lot.
Yeah.
And it was like the best season that I could ask for, shy of shooting a buck.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to do everything. I got to meet people, build relationships. I got to see bucks. I had a camera guy. I spent the week at your camp, which was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I had Mitchell with the camera. That was a blast.
Shout
I
out
got to do
Mitchell.
a remote camp with Dad. That was awesome. Dad shot his buck there. I did all the hard work, dragged it out.
He did.
But but it was great. In those couple days I was with Mitchell there, I mean, I think I had him 4 days, and we had like fresh snow every day, like an inch.
And there will be a movie on this. There will be a movie.
Yeah,
on this.
so you'll see our trip, and I ended up shooting at a buck before I had Mitchell, but missed. And then when I had him, after the week was over, I looked back at like all the times that, I could tell a buck was going to bed down and we were getting close, and then I'd come to an empty bed, or I'd see a flag, or, I was within like 50 to 100 yards of like huge bucks 12 times in 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And just whether it was bad wind, they were set up good,
Yeah.
The extra motion from a camera guy, like
Yeah.
it was crazy. I remember at one, like, I was like going along the edge of this swamp, and the track took a left and like went in like this little, like where it kind of opened up a little, but not much. But I remember like peeking in there, and like I expected to see a buck go as soon as I came around the corner. I didn't see nothing. I was like, man, he's got to be in here somewhere. I knew he was going to be close. So I get walking. I go maybe 60 yards, and like there was like a little like pole pine that was like blown down, and right behind that there was a bed. And I was like, busted him. But I thought to myself, he couldn't have winded me, and if he had seen me come around, I would have seen him go. I was like, how did he bust me? And then I looked at it some more and realized that he was walking out of it. Now I'm like, he's right here, you know? So I followed him for like another 20 yards, and he laid down again, and then I had busted him out. And I just probably couldn't see him where I was when I came around that corner, but he had laid down and then realized, like, I don't really like this spot, and then moved 20 yards and laid down again. And if I was maybe 5 minutes faster, I would have caught him getting out of his bed, going to the next spot, and I could have shot him.
In between.
You know?
Yeah.
Don't you love that?
Yeah. It was just bad timing. Like, that was like...
And you saw bucks, too, that you were tracking, and but you didn't see the antlers, so you didn't shoot. And I think to your credit, that's important.
The last day of season...
Big bucks. Big tracks.
The last day of season, I had bumped a buck, and right before dark, and that I was tracking with Mitchell, and I was like, all right, dude, like, I'm smoked. Let's get out of here. Well, it had turned out when we had crossed the stream, we're going up the hill to get out, the buck had gone parallel to the stream, and then it cut up the same ridge. So we're just hoofing along and getting out of there. And Mitchell's like, look. And I look up, and I just see a deer trotting away from me, and all I see is its tail going. And I snapped the gun up, and I'm like, did you see antlers? Because I couldn't see. And he's like, I honestly couldn't tell you. And I was like, oh, dude, it was like 30-yard chip shot, Texas heart shot, dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. If he had said antler, because at that point, I know I'm not that far from where that buck had gone.
Right.
And so I hustled over to where his tracks were. And as soon as I got to his tracks, I could smell them. And as soon as I looked at the track, I was like, that's his track. I was like,
and that was a monster
yeah,
track.
that was a good buck.
Maybe we could cut in the image of that track.
Yeah,
That was
Remind me
big.
to send me that picture.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed out, but like it was a great season. Got to hunt Pennsylvania. That was a blast.
When we were at camp together, every day you came back with a killer story.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you're on them.
Yeah, it was like a matter of time, and it just ran out of time, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But like I got to, meet Steve Sherk, spend time with him. I got to meet Dan Christmas. Like we met him at Huntstock, but like
we had dinner with him at his camp on
I
Indian
stayed
Lake.
there, and
That
then
was really
he
nice.
gave me a spot to go hunting, which was cool. I ended up tracking a buck in there, bumped him a bunch of times. Like it was a good season, man. We had like I said, I couldn't ask for more other than one of them bucks to die.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's big woods hunting, ain't it?
It is.
Yeah, shoot one everywhere, every year. Some people do.
That's why they call
We
it
have them on the
hunting.
podcast and ask them out.
that's why we do the podcast.
Exactly.
Try to get the inside secrets.
Exactly. So, all right, we're going to get Sherk on now. So we'll be right back with Sherk. Listen to some of these messages from our sponsors. They make it all possible, and we use their stuff, and that's why we're promoting it. So, all right, see you guys in a sec. This podcast is brought to you in part by Minus 33. Minus 33 is a wool and textile manufacturer based in New Hampshire that is producing top-notch merino wool base layers and socks. Layering your clothes when you're hunting the big woods is key. As we've discussed on the podcast, the conditions and distances involved in hunting the Adirondacks mean that you have to take your gear seriously. You can't afford to not have the best gear, and that's particularly true of your base layers. Minus 33 long johns should be an essential part of your gear system to keep you warm while you're out in the Adirondack backcountry. As for socks, I've tried dozens of pairs of wool socks over the years, and Minus 33 Heritage socks are by far the comfiest. If you go on the Minus 33 website, you can read about the care that they've taken to create these socks. And once you put them on, the difference is obvious. They are perfect for long days hoofing it up and down mountains in the Dacks. So get prepped for the next season now by clicking on the link in the description and getting stocked up on Minus 33 merino base layers and socks. Happy hunting! The Adirondack Hunt Podcast is brought to you in part by Seek Outside Tents. Seek Outside is an American company producing lightweight, versatile tents and titanium stoves. The Big Woods Bucks team and their friends have hunted the Adirondacks with Seek Outside hot tents and found that it's the best way to get back into the wilderness areas and have a remote hunt. With few roads and hiking trails the only way to access the extensive backcountry of the Adirondacks, your pack needs to be as light as possible. Seek Outside's lightweight tents and stoves enable you to get back there into the most remote country and hunt mature Adirondack bucks that likely have never seen a human being. Use code BWB at checkout on SeekOutside.com and get 10% off your Seek Outside gear. Good luck on your remote hunt in the big woods. All right, welcome back to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, everyone. We're back with Steve Sherk, the man from the PA Big Woods. And Steve, if you don't know Steve, he's pretty well known on the podcast circuit and in the Northeast hunting community at this point for being a complete badass. I'll embarrass you a little, Steve. This is a man who's known for just having the big woods of PA figured out. But he's a really humble man too, so I don't expect him to agree with that take. But that's certainly how we feel and how others feel. Steve runs Sherk's Guide Service. Hit him up if you're interested in checking out the PA Big Woods. We were just talking about our trip down there, and we had a blast, Steve, and due in no small part to where you sent us and where you told us and how you told us to hunt that area.
Within half an hour, two of us had seen bucks.
Yeah, and I saw 16 deer in one day, which I think, as I told you, is about what you can expect to see in a season in the Adirondacks. So I don't want to blow up your spots too much, not your spot, but the PA Big Woods too much. But I do want to tell the viewers, if you got time to get down there, you got to get down there.
Yeah, and go through Sherk.
Go through Sherk.
We'll hook you up.
Because he knows his stuff, man. Like, because you were telling me, you were like, all right, the top's where they're going to be feeding, dawn and dusk, and then the sides are, but not all the way down, but the sides. Like,
yeah.
How do you think of those sides of the mountains? Because that you described as bedding. I mean, you were absolutely right. I would go in there and I'm like, man, this is thick. It's like whips, and I guess I was surprised because when you're on the top of those ridges, it's massive, like 100-year-old oaks with no brush. But then you go right down the side, and it's like it's thick, it's dense as can be, and it's not softwood. It's like, I don't know, beech whips and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and that just depends on different areas. But last year, we had like only high elevation acorn production. So the oaks and the higher elevations produce, and then everything lower didn't, because we had our early, like, low elevation spring frost a year or two before that. But it seemed like last year the deer would bed lower on the hillsides, and then they'd work their way up to feed. Not something we always see. A lot of times we'll see, you'll have it where they'll be bedding up higher sometimes than the bulk of the acorns. So every year is a little different, but last year is kind of unique. I kind of like the way it was, really.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I didn't realize that was like unique to that year.
Yeah. So how it's so my observation, Steve, of the big woods down there is really unique because it's almost like a mix of what we would consider southern tier New York hunting, where deer can be patterned, but I did track some big bucks in there that did some traveling, dude. So it's almost like a mix between patternable deer and also these old monarchs that do travel. It seems like they were going peak to peak and doing that. Is that your observation too?
Yeah, and sometimes too, it just depends on the hunting pressure. Like, seems like some of our bucks were really lock up tight to certain areas, maybe getting away from everyone if there's been a lot of pressure. When you guys came last year, I'm sure you didn't see a whole lot of hunting pressure, but it seemed like the bucks were, other than maybe they were bedding a lot, throughout the daytime, but it seemed like they were pretty comfortable with their patterns. They were roaming around a little bit more than what they usually do, but probably similar to maybe some of what you guys see back at home. But our hunting pressure just seems to keep dying down more and more every year, and kind of makes you have to change and adjust. Although, a lot of people don't like hunting pressure, but we've definitely had to kind of seek deer out and hunt them, individually based on their own patterns and movement than, relying on what other hunters are doing, especially pushing them around to you.
That is so funny. So here you are telling us that you have to adjust. You almost sound sad that there's not pressure. I mean, I haven't heard that too often, but I think having you on our podcast. Maybe that will change now. But,
Maybe, yeah.
That's an interesting take.
But yeah, years ago, like you could just sit in the woods and count on, hunters out there still hunting, moving deer around. But I mean, a lot has changed, and especially in the last 10, 15 years, which really benefits to what you guys do, because I know you guys are mostly still hunters and trackers, but it's sitting in a tree stand all day here anymore, especially after the first couple days of the season. I mean, you can be in for some really long hunts, long sits, and it's not really as effective as what it used to be. But a lot of hunters here used to be really good at stand hunting and figuring out where bucks would escape and, setting up on those type of travel routes. But it's not really that case anymore.
It's funny, Steve. I was just saying, I was really impressed with how little pressure. Again, it's kind of a funny. I guess it depends on your point of view whether or not pressure is desirable or not. But I love that there really wasn't that much pressure. Although I noticed the Saturday when we left, the last day we hunted, there were quite a few trucks out.
Yeah, that was like a doe hunt or something. It seemed like
a special doe
there was a
thing.
bunch of people going in for does. Is that a separate thing, or is that all season long you can shoot does?
It just depends on what kind of tags you have, but at that time, all doe tags were open, eligible, I should say. Also, the last day, that's pretty common. You'll get guys, they'll hunt the first few days, and they get burnt out, and then they start to think, man, I got enough in me for one last hurrah. So
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what you saw. But
yeah, that was last
honestly,
day.
after the first few days of the season, even the first week, 4 or 5 days into it, and then from then on until about the last weekend, I mean, things have been really, really slow as far as hunting pressure. So, like I said, for guys like you, I think you benefit more from no pressure than having some people bumping deer around.
Yeah, and I got to tell you,
Sure.
it's a still hunter's paradise, especially on those big open ridges. I mean, you could just creep along and just glass and pick out deer from 150, 200 yards away, and I did track that morning when we had snow. I think it was the Friday morning, and I had a nice morning of tracking on a buck. But you had told us about, I think, 2 of the bucks that you had hanging, not hanging, you had up on the wall at your camp there. You'd killed still hunting. And I'm curious to hear about your still hunting style, because it's pretty much something I ask every guest, but it's like, how slow are you going? How many miles are you covering on a still hunt?
Yeah, honestly, I'm hardly any bit of a stand hunter when it comes to rifle hunting. I've always been more confident and really just found it more fun, especially come gun season, because I'm also a pretty big archery hunter. And then you sit in the tree stand for a couple months, and after that, like, you don't want to sit in the tree stand anymore. And then you throw a rifle in your hands, and you're just dying to put the boots on the ground. But for me, I like to focus more on maybe individual deer, some of their traits, and where I've had history with them. I like to try to sneak up on bucks in their beds. There's times when I'll be like, people will probably see me walking through the woods thinking I'm a maniac, because if I'm in like a dead zone where I don't feel a good buck is hanging out, like, I will literally almost run through that area to get to another good area. But when I do get to a spot that I'm feeling confident or expecting to see a particular buck or a good buck, I mean, I will literally just creep, and just like a snail. It seems like the slower I go, the better it is for me, seeing that buck before he sees me. If I go too fast, man, they're spotting me, way ahead of time. But
Yep.
once again, I focus. A lot of my hunting is hunting bedding areas throughout, the middle of the day, late morning, early afternoon, and then you guys saw it too. You can catch bucks, especially if you got a good acorn crop here. You can sneak through and still hunt through feeding areas early morning, or the last couple hours of the day. I mean, you can catch them feeding then. So once again, it's usually based on what I think those deer are doing, and then I'll slip to certain areas throughout the day, depending on where I think they're at.
Yeah.
It was really, really interesting, because first of all, where you sent us was fantastic. Let me first say that Steve knows what he's doing. I want the viewers
So true.
to yeah,
So true.
he really does. It's not nonsense. And but number two, it took me a little while to deal with my style as primarily a tracker, especially with snow, and then deal with the numbers of deer and what I was seeing. So I was passing up, as you remember, each day I'd pass up on smaller bucks, and in the Adirondacks, I probably would have shot a couple of those. Some were like bigger than basket eights, things like that, and a 6-pointer I remember, and a 4-pointer, and some spikes, and there's a lot of variety. But I was struggling. I would start tracking, and then I'd get into an area where there'd be fresh tracks with bucks in it, and then I'd be still hunting. Then I would be tracking. Then I'd be still hunting. So I had to choose one or the other, and I think I didn't get the big buck simply because I was delaying my process because I was acclimating to numbers of deer that I'm not used to seeing. And that was, I think now, I think if I go to PA, I know that I'd probably just still hunt. I'd be like, Steve, tell me where to go, and I'll just still hunt
That's what I did.
Yeah.
As soon as I seen the deer numbers and all the tracks everywhere, I was like, yeah, I'm not trying to do this. I'm just going to still hunt. Plus, at the end of the season, I'm burned out. I'm like, I'm just going to take a nice, slow walk.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say, too, because that one of the bucks I was tracking, I jumped it, and it ran up, like, onto one of those hardwood ridges where I could probably see 200 yards. You know the buck can see 350, and I'm like, I could do massive swing after massive swing and try to get on it, but I was like, you know what? There's so many deer, I'm just going to run right back to the top and start still hunting again, rather than play that jump and chase game.
Well, it's interesting because Bob didn't go to PA, but I told Bob at the end of the season, I said, you have to go because it really, his style, I guarantee within 3 days a big buck is going to die because
for sure would.
It literally is like perfectly made for Bob because Bob's, I call it still track hunting. It's like he can just adapt to that. I don't do that well. I'm too narrow-minded. But yeah, you would love it, man.
So was last season in particular pretty good for you, Sherk? Because I know it was super snowy. I think more than you're used to. Is that right?
Yeah. We had good conditions, but yet we sort of didn't. Like the first few days, we did really well of gun season. Then we ran into like 2 feet of snow. That lasted for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 days. And then all the snow started to melt. Then we were getting a little bit of snow and rain and temperatures, fluctuating, freezing, then thawing. And so I think the conditions towards the middle to the end of our gun season, and even the time when you guys were here, like I think it was hard still hunting based on the crunchiness. And then before you guys came, I mean, I don't know if there's anything wrong with deep snow. I just think it wears guys out, literally thigh deep snow. Like it's harder to put on 5-10 miles a day in that snow depth. So just like anything, like even our archery hunts, there's years when we have 70-degree temperatures and makes it tougher. Like conditions, I think, play such a huge factor towards the success that you're going to have. And if everything lines up right with good weather, like our success always goes way up. But I think things were going down for us a little more than usual when you guys were here, ultimately just because of the conditions.
That's wild because I'm looking at this going, this is so awesome, right? And I could tell that you were not feeling it as a guide, because you're probably used to whatever. Your standard is very high, but for us, that what we were experiencing was really a playground of just wonderfulness. Austin, you had a question about equipment.
Playground of wonderfulness.
If that's a word.
I love it.
Yeah. What do you hunt with for a rifle primarily?
I use a Tikka 7mm 08. It's just I'm the kind of guy like, I don't have a huge preference, but like it's more about the feel of the gun. Sometimes the history, the memories I have. Like it's just my favorite gun. I don't know if it's my favorite caliber, but it's one of those guns like I feel like I can pick up on a buck 100 yards out with no rest and just feel like if I get the crosshairs on him, it's going to be a good shot versus. And maybe it's all in my mind, but I've used other guns, guns that my dad or grandfathers lended me that I've had a couple bad experiences, and it's like, nope, never again. There's something about that gun I don't like. But a lot of people here do well with like 30-06 or 308. Like your basic deer calibers are pretty good here. You probably notice like there's not a lot of shots here over 200 yards. It's not something or somewhere where you got to have the most powerful scope or gun sighted in 500 yards. Like your average shots here are honestly 100 yards or less usually.
Yeah, so you like a bolt action though?
Oh, yep. And once again, I'm more of a hunter that like not well. I shouldn't say that it happens that way, but I'm hopeful to get them down in one shot. Although the past several years, I seem to be unloading the whole gun on one deer. But the bolt action is something that I was brought into throughout my family. We all started out with lever action 30-30s when we were young, and then when the bolt actions got popular, we all kind of went after them. But I think for our style, especially more of the still hunting, and we're trying to really find that deer in its bed or feeding, usually killing that deer in one shot. I think the bolt action is pretty good. We don't necessarily focus like on the pump action where you're just fling and let it a running deer. Like a lot of guys I know, and even myself, a lot of times won't even shoot at a running buck just because we're not really good shooters at running deer. We don't practice that, or our focus is always catching that deer before it sees us. And
Yep.
I've heard that from some of the old timer still hunters in the southern Adirondacks, like Jim Abbott. Make your first shot count, and that's that.
Yeah.
I
think that should be the rule anyway. By the way, the 7 MM08 is absolute perfection for deer. It's a great caliber. It's a really wonderful caliber, and the Tika is a great platform. Real smooth.
I like the
bolt
60-degree bolt.
Yeah, 60-degree bolt. Yeah.
Tikas are really, really smooth, but they have that short bolt lift.
Yep.
Really nice.
Yep.
So, for our viewers, when does your season start? When would you recommend them hitting you up, or do you have availability?
yeah, I do have more availability than usual. You guys might have noticed. We got our own cabin now.
I saw that. Looks great.
We're not just renting places out. So we'll be trying to fill our own cabin here. First couple weeks of gun season this year, I wasn't sure that the cabin was going to be ready. So I'm a little late on advertising this, but we are going to have 2 weeks of hunting right here out of our own cabin to be able to use. It will be starting the first Saturday after thing, and we'll run into the Saturday of second week of be like the second Saturday of this. Hopefully, be a benefit to a lot of hunters and maybe a benefit and not have to take as much time off from work to come here and hunt. So, but yeah, we'll. I still got spots for first 2 weeks of this, or full 2 weeks of this coming gun season. If anyone that's watching this is interested, definitely reach out to me.
Excellent. Well, yeah, we don't want to keep you on too long, Steve. We just wanted to tell you we appreciate you, and we had a ton of fun down there, and hopefully we'll be back. I won't be able to the viewers. I'm having a child the last week of the Adirondack season, to my immense joy and chagrin simultaneously.
But I think that
won't make it
myself
either.
and some others, maybe Bob as well.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get down there this year.
Yeah, I think we would like the last week, right?
We're gonna get the big guy down there,
Yeah,
Al. So
I guess we'll be calling you with we'll give a call
Dates,
this week.
yep.
Yeah,
I
we'll set
can't make
up.
it this year because I'm also having a baby
I know
in
that
November. So
yeah.
everybody's having kids.
Even if one or two of you come, I'm sure it'll be a good time. And I know from what you guys did last year, you guys fit right in, and I'm pretty confident a couple good bucks are going to be falling to you guys this coming season if you get here.
Yeah,
Thanks, Steve.
I feel pretty confident in it
I'm gonna
too.
work on my target panic. I promise. I'll come back next time.
All right.
All right. Thank you for everything, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care, guys.
All right,
it easy.
later, man. All right, guys. So that was our recap of our 2024 deer seasons. We hope you learned something from our successes and our foibles and our stories. Hope there were some good teaching points, and we hope you enjoyed the interview with our friend Steve Sherk. And please do hit him up if you're looking to hunt the PA Big Woods. There's no one better. So that's it, and we'll see all you legends next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. You can find more episodes at bigwoodsbucks.com. Check out bigwoodsbucks.com for the latest gear, including our famous American-made wool hunting jackets, wool hunting fanny packs, and wool hunting pants, along with books, tracking guides, and logo wear. See you next time.